Welcome to One for the Road. I'm Devvy Kid and your commentator. One for the Road was developed and created to help the busy commuter and Americans who don't have access to the internet find out what Congress and the media won't tell you. Knowledge is power, but the American people aren't being given the truth. Many Americans do feel powerless in bringing about change because no matter how many times they vote, the situation continues to deteriorate. The reason is that the American people have not been given the facts about how government systems actually work versus the agenda of self-serving politicians. Americans ask, why won't the media expose the dangers to our constitutional republic that are being implemented by powerful interests? Let me give you a few quotes that all Americans should find very disturbing. The first is from a man who has worked his entire life to destroy this republic. And before I give you that quote, I would like to remind Americans that we are a constitutional republic, not a democracy. James Madison, the father of the U.S. Constitution because he wrote the founding document, said, "Democracy is the most vile form of government. Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths." And we hear all the time from politicians on the news, our democracy. Well, we are not a democracy. We are a republic, and there is a great difference. But let us go back to the first quote from David Rockefeller, founder of the Trilateral Commission, who said in June of 1991, quote, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. But the world is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries," unquote. In 1976, U.S. Congressman Larry McDonald said, quote, "The drive of the Rockefellers and their allies is to create a one-world government combining supercapitalism and communism under the same tent, all under their control," unquote. On June 3rd, 1994, former Senator Sam Nunn, a New World Order player, was quoted in the Associated Press when he said, "I think that our American people will welcome a Russian military force for peacekeeping purposes," unquote. What peacekeeping here on U.S. soil? On February 1st, 1992, George Bush Sr. stated, quote, "My vision of a new world order foresees a United Nations with a revitalized peacekeeping function. It is the sacred principles enshrined in the UN Charter to which we henceforth pledge our, America's allegiance," unquote. It is? The United Nations was birthed by communists and it is run by communists to this day. The UN World Constitution says, quote, "The age of nations must end. The government of the nations have decided to order their separate sovereignties into one global government to which we will all surrender our arms," unquote. Rowan Gaither, who was president of the Ford Foundation back in 1954, said, quote, "We operate here under directives which emanate from the White House. The substance of the directives under which we operate is that we shall use our grant-making power to alter life in the United States so that we can comfortably be merged with the Soviet Union," unquote. And I do have a copy of the hearings where Gaither made this startling statement. On July 20th, 1992, Strobe Talbot, Bill Clinton's former Deputy Secretary of State, was quoted in Time magazine saying, quote, "In the next century, nations as we know it will be obsolete. All states will recognize a single global authority. National sovereignty wasn't such a great idea after all," unquote. This statement is clearly treason, but this is what is staring the American people in the face loud and clear. What these people are talking about is dissolving our republic and making America, Canada, and Mexico as one region of a one-world government. This process has been underway for a long, long time, and time grows short for we the people. Is this really what you want for your children? A handful of conglomerates own all of the newspapers in America. ABC, NBC, and CBS have controlled the airwaves and flow of information since television was invented. The cable news networks, example Fox and CNN, are owned by anti-American interests and provide little more than controlled opposition in the form of entertainment. Millions of Americans know something is very wrong in our country. They cannot understand why things continue to get worse instead of better. They seek a truth that will not be found by looking to Congress or the government's media apparatus. I do not belong to any organization. I do not belong to any political party. I have no political axe to grind. I'm a constitutionalist, which means I believe in the rule of law and the principles upon which this republic was founded. My blind loyalty is not to any political party. I did leave my career 16 years ago, giving up more than $1 million in income, because through the years of grinding research, I discovered things were going on right under my nose that would eventually destroy our republic and endanger our right to be a free people. Because I found out these truths, I simply could not go back to work and pretend everything was going to be okay. I write a regular featured column for worldnetdaily.com, and I write regularly for newswithviews.com. Americans have so little free time between family obligations and fighting off our draconian governments, both state and federal. Not everyone has a computer, nor do they have the luxury of giving up their career to spend years in law libraries, reading treaties, legislation by the reams, 1,000 books, and following domestic and international events. However, we are on the cliff, about to lose everything that those who died to birth this republic gave us, unless the American people are given factual and accurate information, and that is why One for the Road has been created, to give you the truth and solutions to America's problems. Time grows short, and so few Americans know what's going to happen in the future. The truth is scary. No one wants to face betrayal, especially when they put their faith and trust in politicians, talk show hosts, and media figures. However, unless and until the American people get the whole truth, we will continue to slide down the razor blade of totalitarian government. Bringing the internet to CD form does present a few challenges. For one, in the material being presented are links to what we call source references. Due to time constraints, it will be impossible to cover each and every source when referred to as a link here. However, they exist, and they are very important because they provide documented evidence of what I am telling you. If you do have a computer, you can go to that particular column and click on the link. On my website, Devvy.com, is a master list of all my columns. There's no question that the information being presented will shock and upset Americans. However, my reputation is built on my credibility for being a meticulous researcher and getting my facts straight, no matter how painful. While the truth can be excruciating painful, we the people must open our eyes to painful truths. Patrick Henry said we are apt to close our eyes against a painful truth. We cannot. We the people must open them, for to remain blind to the truth is to dig the grave of this nation. No football or baseball game, fun time at the park, fishing trip, movie, day at the beach, or dinner at a favorite restaurant is more important than our freedom and protecting this sovereign republic and our children's birthright. I wish to add that the truth isn't Republican, Democrat, white, black, Catholic, Baptist, conservative, liberal, short, or tall. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It's not an NFL playbook that can be changed to suit anyone's whims or the evil agenda of those who own and control Washington, D.C. So, let's get started.